DW AfricaLink.
Today's podcast urgently takes us to South Africa again, this time to delve into the pressing debate around Spaza shops. In recent months, we've witnessed a crackdown on these small informal businesses, many of them vital for communities. But beyond the headlines, there are profound questions. What prompted these measures? Who is truly impacted? And crucially, what lies ahead? Your attention to this matter is crucial. Stay tuned. My name is Josey Mahachi. Welcome to AfricaLink, the podcast that connects you to the stories that matter from Africa.
AfricaLink, every weekday here on DW.
Health inspectors in different municipalities have joined forces with the police, law enforcement officers, and other departments to make food safety compliance visits to the so-called Spaza shops. This follows a spate of incidents across the country of people, mostly children, falling ill or dying of food poisoning, allegedly after consuming food or snacks that possibly had been contaminated by pesticides bought at these shops operated by mainly foreigners. President Cyril Ramaphosa announced on November 15th that all food premises were instructed to comply with food safety regulations or face being closed down. In addition, he ordered all Spaza shops and food handling facilities to register with their municipalities by 13th of December 2024. Is this a chance to formalize and empower small businesses, or does it risk sidelining the very people the economy depends on? Joining me as we unpack the ripple effects of these policies and what the future might hold for South Africa's informal economy is Bongani Mkhwananzi, African Diaspora Forum spokesperson, and our own DW's correspondent, Thuso Khumalo in Johannesburg. Now, I will start with you, Thuso Khumalo. You are our reporter on ground. What's the general mood in communities where Spaza shops are a vital source of affordable product?
Generally, the mood on the ground is mixed, to say the truth, because we have got the group that says we want foreign nationals out of this sector because they dominate that sector. So this group is excited to say the re-registration will give time for them to be eliminated so that only South Africans are owning these Spaza shops. But at the same time, in the same vein, they are also angry that the government has allowed foreign nationals with proper documentation to come into the space. So you see them in these registration centers trying to chase the foreigners away. Like yesterday, I witnessed one where they were just stopping everyone and saying, we're closing down the station, the registration process, because we want these foreigners to go away. This is an economy, a township economy that should only be reserved for the locals, not for the foreign nationals. Then we've got the third group of South Africans who are saying, allow these foreigners to register, because we don't believe that when South Africans are in charge, the goods will be as cheap, as affordable as they are now. So they are worried that once that space is closed for this group of people or foreigners who have done this for a long time, giving them even credit sometimes during the month when they have no money, they are doubting that South Africans will afford to do that. So it's a mixed bag depending on what you want to benefit from this space of these Spaza shops.
Okay. Now, to you, Mkhwananzi, it's an obvious question that I'm going to ask you now. Are local Spaza shops selling harmful goods in informal communities in South Africa?
Thank you, Joseph. But it's not as an easy question, because any direct answer will actually be misleading in a sense. Short answer would be no, they are not. But then locals have pointed to certain Spaza shops that they say their children consumed food and then they perished. So now that was our initial statement to say, let the investigations prove that these shops are selling poisonous food. When there is a Spaza shop that has sold food that is endangering a life. We should say a Spaza shop at this location has sold food that is poisonous. But to generalize and say all Spaza shops owned by foreigners are selling poisonous food is disingenuous. So we are seeing that this is a narrative really that is being created to push out foreign-owned Spaza owners with the shops.
Right. And how have members of your organization, the African Diaspora Forum, been dealing with the crackdown on Spaza shops?
So we initially called out for investigations. We have also commissioned our own private investigation, and we have a team led by our chairman, Amir Sheikh, that has gone around to some Spazas where we could manage to go to. We have also done a few town hall meetings with these Spaza owners, called them for meetings and workshops to discuss how they should be operating these Spazas, where we have even called the Johannesburg Department of Health, amongst other stakeholders, to attend.
Right. Now, Thuso, what kind of harassment stories have you covered in the line of duty as a reporter?
This story that involves locals asking foreigners either to stop working in shops, in restaurants, or asking foreigners out of the townships in terms of those that are operating business has always brought me in conflict with the locals. I remember at one instance when I was busy reporting live, this was the Facebook Live on DW, a group of them came to me and said, "You also sound like a foreigner. You are also a foreigner. Can you please leave? You are also taking our jobs." It becomes chaotic. Like enough, in such groupings, I always make sure at least there is one contact that I have within them who understands my work and what I do, and who also understands that I'm a foreigner. So it also impacts, and we expect that also, because now with these Spaza shops coming in, it has always been the push from South Africans pushing the government to go this route. So we believe also as journalists, especially who are not South Africans by origin, it will become also spilling over to us, because after Spaza shops, obvious, I can tell you the bigger issue was chasing those that are working in restaurants, chasing those that are in construction, and it will come to a point whereby also journalists will be directly, not indirectly targeted. So I've become also a victim of those, but thanks to some of the people in the society, in these organizations, including a few contacts that I have in Dudula, have always come in my defense to say he's a journalist, he's genuinely here, and all those things. But yes, this issue of South Africans fighting for their working business space has also affected me directly as a journalist.
Right. And that we just hope and always pray that Thuso, you continue to be safe, and other people also in South Africa. But critics argue that some larger retailers may benefit from the perception that Spaza shops are unsafe, Thuso, given that this business compete directly with them in lower income areas. Is that the general impression you are getting?
Yes, if you talk to people who go analyzing this issue beyond just an issue of Spaza shops, they will tell you that exactly that's what is going to happen. And some of them suspect that larger retailers could be also pushing this narrative, because in the absence of these Spaza shop owners, it is them who are going to supply these goods. But that will come at a cost for the locals, because not all locations have got these big retailers within their reach. Some of the people that are arguing that Spaza shops and the foreign owners should stay, they say once those Spaza shops are closed, they will have to take a taxi just to buy airtime, just to buy bread, spend more just for them to get bread, because these larger retailers are away. But definitely, when you remove these, it means people will rely on them and rely on them more. And the other argument is that the South Africans won't make these goods as cheaper as these people want. So it means these larger retailers could also manage to bring the prices down more than the local South Africans in these Spaza shops. So hence drawing more and more buyers to them. So it's something that people are discussing, especially those that are looking just beyond stopping foreign nationals, but largely closing down the Spaza shops and remaining with only these large retailers to have all these people coming up to them to buy.
Right. But I'm just thinking, I mean, South Africa is also really grappling with the issue of high unemployment, Bongani, and in your own opinion, do you think closing down these Spaza shops will do South Africa any good? Or many people now, I mean, it will definitely increase the number of unemployment in the country.
Our diagnosis of the situation is that there's a large group of migrants that have been in this space who have been here. Most of these shop owners are either on refugee status. Now, the South African method of doing refugee statuses is that someone, while they are looking for that status, they should go and be able to fend for themselves. Suddenly, you will have a large contingent of people who will be out of any means of fending for themselves, which will also create a potential problem. I do not think the Spaza shop space will entirely bring down unemployment to South Africa. It has the potential to also reduce the unemployment rate. But remember, these are small-time shops where when you look at the migrants who are in this space, the Ethiopians, the Bangladeshis, the Somalis, they are largely community-style in their living, such that if one of them is running a Spaza, they are actually helping a larger community within them. So it's a self-employment initiative. The balance won't really make too much of a large difference in terms of unemployment in South Africa, which is a much more complex topic. So we will see a bit of a problem very soon, where suddenly we have a large contingent of people, they have no means of fending themselves, they cannot go around and look for employment, and we are really going to see a bit of a problem here in the coming future.
Right. And Spaza shop bylaws, Bongani, will allow municipalities to choose quota of foreign-owned shops. Is this, in your opinion, a long-term solution?
According to the perspective of South Africans, they are being dominated by foreigners, which they would naturally want to fight for that space. In terms of securing food, the obvious thing is health inspections and strict compliance to bylaws. It doesn't necessarily mean that if you reduce foreign-owned Spazas, automatically it translates to healthy food. It's only compliance and enforcing bylaws, which can be done even to foreigners as well, which is actually being done already to foreigners. They are good for the general rhetoric that South Africans are taking back that space for Spazas. And in a sense, it's a legitimate concern by South Africans to say, look, we are being outrun by foreigners. And perhaps if that quota is fair, it may bring calm and peace back to the communities.
And Thuso, you're on ground. What do you think of this bylaw? I mean, that will allow municipalities to choose quota of foreign-owned shops?
Yeah, considering the amount of unemployment in South Africa currently standing above 30%, and considering the poverty in these townships where these spaces are, I think it's a fair deal that the locals in that space where business does not require much capital, where business does not require much skill. We're talking even beyond Spaza shops. We're talking your hair salons and all other kinds of small food production. It's only fair that locals should be the majority there. The only accident is that it's done in a very polarized atmosphere, where some people just want to be anti-foreigners because they feel they should not be there. These quotas, I mean, the groups that we've seen disrupting these registrations, the people there have made it plain clear, we don't want to see any foreigners owning Spaza shops. That will happen over our dead bodies. They've said it loud and clear. If the government wants to dare us, let the government do it. So even the few people that will remain there, they will find it very difficult maybe to operate even though they are within the quotas, because of the sentiments and the attitude of some locals. So I think it's a fair process, but how the government is going to manage it and make sure that those foreigners falling within those quotas still are able to sell and trade without trouble from other citizens who feel otherwise, we are yet to see.
Right. Now, Bongani, I know you say that it's just a bit unfair for South Africans, but Operation Dudula is warning South Africans who are registering Spaza shops for foreign nationals, and it has been reported that Operation Dudula operatives aggressively target foreigners with xenophobic undertones. What more can you tell us about that?
The lawyers for human rights, which we have engaged, has sent a letter to the presidency and other stakeholders in government, talking exactly of those sort of issues where foreigners are being stopped from collecting forms, from submitting forms, and any homeowners who want to list their properties are being threatened if they try to register the shop as theirs. So this is just a hatred of foreigners. This is not necessarily. So the start of this matter, it was said foreigners are selling dangerous food. And now it is very clear that this was more a story which was utilized from whatever caused the death of those children. That was now utilized as a tool to then say no more foreigners. So we are asking for an extension to the 13th December deadline because of such issues. And there's a letter that has been written on behalf of these foreign-owned spazas.
All right. And Thuso, what happens once the deadline expires on December 13th in case they decline on extending?
The government has made it clear that anyone who operates without a license after that deadline is going to be breaching the law, and local authorities, including the police and local municipality police, will have to deal with them as somebody who has breached the bylaws. But as our guest has said, it's yet to be seen, because if you look now, we're not far away from 13 December, but the queues are still long. In some places, they are saying the registration is very slow. The people are still not clear what documents to bring. Some of them, they go and have to come back again because they don't have documents. So whether all licenses will be issued by the 13th of December is very doubtful. So the government has said no one should operate, but as things look now, it may mean half of the spaza shops that we have now may not be able to operate because of the bottlenecks that are involved in terms of information dissemination, what people should do, and of course, most South Africans, they go there to register these spaza shops because the government has promised that there's about 500 million rands that will be used to cushion them up. So you still have that period where that money still has to be allocated. People have to apply for it in order for them to start operating. So we're just not sure what will happen, but the government says once that deadline is there, no one should operate without the license.
Right. And when I'm just thinking, Bongani, it had previously been thought that children were poisoned, right, after eating chips purchased from a local spaza shop. Before I ask you about the report and why the minister then later said that it wasn't the cause, do you feel that groups like the Dudula and the other people who are just against foreigners can go an extra mile to just cause commotion and sacrifice even children's lives just to ensure that foreigners are kicked out of South Africa?
As an organization, we wouldn't want to say such, because it would be quite speculatory. As much as the groups like the Dudula themselves went into serious speculation about the foreign-owned spazas being the cause of the deaths, and later the investigation found that some of the children, there's a family where the food was prepared at their home. This was the case even in 22 where it was said children bought biscuits from a Spaza or a foreign Spaza owner, where later on the health forensics later said no, the Spaza owner had no direct, we had nothing to do with that death. The biscuits were not found to have been having any contamination of any poison whatsoever. So it would be very worrying if it was to be found that there are such elements who could do that. That would be very, very scary to find that people would go to any such a length so we lose children in society. I don't think there's anyone who is happy in the world when we lose children in society. It's a very sore thing for any society to face. I would not want to say such and such a group may be responsible for that, in as much as we have called for a more deeper investigation. That's why we have also instituted a private investigation. So we have private investigators busy trying to unearth what is the real cause of this. The minister said on the sample of chips that was taken off one of the deceased children, there was no trace of any organophosphate on that. So this whole organophosphate and this high concentration that is actually killing children needs to be having a much more thorough investigation than just a scapegoat that it's foreigners trying to kill kids. Our argument has been that we don't see how a business person would actually lose his own customers and kill them. It doesn't make sense. And if we are to find through a deeper investigation that we have such elements within the migrant community, they should really face the might of the law, and a heavy punishment should be given to them, because we can't lose children in society. It is the duty of everyone in society to protect kids. But I wouldn't say now, without any proper investigation, that Dudula would be capable of that. It would be very speculatory and maybe malicious of us to say that.
Now, as we wrap up, have your members been seeking a kind of protection from the looming deadline?
Through the Lawyers for Human Rights, after consultations, they have written the letter to the President, to the Health Ministry, and to the MECs responsible to say the timeline is a bit too short to get people to re-register. There needs to be an extension, in particular because there is people who will be taking the law to themselves, preventing people from registering. What we would then say is, let them register, because the approval is still at the hands of the state. If the state then does not approve the application, it's then up to the state. It shouldn't be up to individuals to stop that. So we have taken that action and have the Lawyers for Human Rights having written a letter.
All right. And Thuso, as we wrap up, I'm sure if you get this letter with you, you can obviously, you're a reporter, report on that and keep updating us on this issue and this story happening in South Africa. Any parting words from you, Thuso?
Yes, I think the government's program of registering of Spaza shops is a right one, in the right direction. What the government should now try and do is to make sure that everyone who deserves to register, who has proper registration papers, does go into the process and everything's adjudicated squarely. And of course, try and find a way of calming other South Africans so that the gap between foreigners and locals is closed, just to avoid any animosity and any volatile situation that could erupt or spark xenophobic violence.
Bongani Mkhwananzi, African Diaspora Forum spokesperson, and DW's correspondent Thuso Khumalo in Johannesburg, many thanks for joining us. At AfricaLink, we always look across the continent to see how the stories and issues we are dealing with play out, or at times even overlap. Now, unlike South Africa, where cases of xenophobia and attacks on foreigners' businesses are rampant, elsewhere in East Africa, countries like Uganda and Rwanda make it easy for foreigners to start businesses. In fact, in Rwanda, registering and starting a business takes only 24 hours, making it a destination for many Africans to do business. What more foreigners are tolerated and actively encouraged to integrate and make Rwanda their second home away from home? This sense of inclusion can make them feel more connected to the community they consider joining. We hope the Rainbow Nation makes foreigners feel at home in the future. That's it for this edition of AfricaLink. Remember, you are not just a listener, but a vital part of our community, and your engagement can significantly influence the direction of our discussions. Your insights are invaluable, and we urge you to share your thoughts with us. Remember to click follow so you can catch all of the AfricaLink podcast episodes. This podcast was co-produced and edited by Isaac Mugabi. My name is Josey Mahachi. Thanks for listening. Until next time, it's bye for now.